He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. It's Saints Friday. We have Jeff Duncan with us today. He's from The Athletic. He's covered the Saints longer than anyone else in history. But before we go to Jeff, I just want to share something with you. I had a great visit earlier this week with Paige Roberts from the Jackson County Chamber. We talked about a lot of things, including sort of this Matthew McConaughey challenge. If you missed that, go to the SuperTalk Facebook page and take a look at it. I think you'll be glad you did. But he makes a great challenge about the kind of things we need to do to bring us back together in our community. But she passed something to me that I wanted to share with you. It was a book that was recommended by Angel Myers-McElrath. Now, Angel is a good friend and the district attorney in Jackson, Georgia, and Greene County. And the name of the book was called 1,000 Gifts, by Ann Voskamp. And what Paige said, she's about halfway through the book, and she came across this poignant line that said, "We pay tribute to God by paying attention." And then she went on to say, wow, so few of us take the time to pay attention to all, to pay attention to what's around us with all the noise and hurriedness that gets in the way. And I can't help but think that one of the biggest gifts we can give to someone else is just pay attention to them. Learn to smell the roses, count your blessings. I think Katrina certainly drove that message home to us. The pandemic has once again reminded us, but I think so many times we go through the busy, and we don't pause long enough to appreciate or to pay attention to the people who are around us. And, my challenge to you today is just think about that. So it's Saints Friday, and let's move over to my friend Jeff Duncan from The Athletic. We worked together at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. We developed a really good friendship. He's covered the Saints longer than anyone else in history. But, man, when you hear something like pay attention and, the lessons learned from Katrina, from your experience there in New Orleans, it's easy to get busy, but sometimes we have to sort of pause for a second and remind ourselves who in our lives are really important, don't we?
Yeah, it's funny, Ricky, that you use that phrase today, because I'm actually writing my column this week for The Athletic about Sean Payton's leadership skills and how he's evolved and adapted to the changing times and the cultural norms of society, and how what might have worked for him in 2006 when he took over the team doesn't necessarily apply now in 2020, that younger players have to identify with different teaching principles than the ones he used back in 2006. And it really fits right in with the the phrase about listening and basically acknowledging everyone in the room. And Sean talked about that today when I asked him about how his leadership and teaching style has changed. And he said it's important to reach everyone in the building. It takes a team approach, whether that's in your family unit, making sure you listen to your children and everyone at the table, or whether it's listening to the equipment guy and the assistant trainer and their input, making them feel inclusive and heard is a real key part of being successful in any organization.
What is so cool about what you're saying, and that's something that I think it's a great reminder, that you have to pay attention to the details. You have to really watch the details. It might be your own attributes and the things you want to achieve and your own willingness to change. It could be understanding the people around you. There was a great book written once called Break All the Rules. And essentially it says that, the golden rule says, treat other people the way you want to be treated. But what this book said, no, don't treat them the way you want to be treated. Treat them the way they want to be treated, so that you're adjusting your communication style with the person that you're dealing with. And maybe the next person, it's a different kind of a communication style. It's interesting that you said that about Sean Payton, because Drew Brees is doing that. Drew Brees, I saw an interview this week with Drew where he talked about, somebody asked him about, it's a 20-year gap between him and some of the players. And how is he bridging that? That's a lot of years, buddy, when you're talking about, a generation. He was talking about just the clothes he wears and the music he listens to and Being able, I mean, to bring a team together, you have to find where that symbiotic relationship is going to be. And the team, when you think about Drew Brees and Sean Payton's leadership of that and their willingness to attend to those kind of details, it makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, and Sean said today, I think the phrase he used was, you either adapt or die. And I think that's exactly true. I think that's what he's done over time. I was actually talking to him, trying to get to him to explain how he's evolved his leadership and teaching style over the years. And in particular, talking about how he dances after the games in the locker room with his players. I asked him, would Bill Parcells have done that? And he said, well, he'd have done it in a different way, but it's still all the same thing. You're trying to connect and relate to your players. And he said the key is just being authentic, being true to yourself, not trying to force it or be somebody you're not. And I think that's a really good, life lesson there for even parents in trying to identify with their children and relate to them and get a point across. Sean Payton does it in a really remarkable way. It's one of his great strengths as a head coach and what makes him, so unique, I think, in this day and age that he's been able to do this now for a decade and a half.
Hey, it'd be interesting. It's not just dancing with the players, but it's how he's dancing with the players. What would be interesting is to go back to the beginning when he first started to do it. He was so awkward. But today you can tell, man, he's been practicing a little bit. He's got kind of the beat, and the way he's dancing is much more sort of the way that you dance today, which is different. And his evolution as a dancer has been pretty significant, hasn't it?
Yeah, and he talked about that. He said, look, in the old days, Bill Parcells might have done it, and it might have been the Charleston or something, but it's the same thing. But I'll tell you a funny, quick anecdote that I'm going to have in this story that is really, I think, displays and exemplifies Sean Payton's ability to change and adapt. A year ago, every year at training camp, Ricky, they have what they call the rookie talent show, and they basically put on a singing, dancing type of entertainment thing. They make the rookies either sing their fight song or something. It's part of the initiation of a team. And a year ago, Eric McCoy, the rookie center from Texas A&M, ended up choosing to do a rap song in his show, in his act. And in it, at the very end of it, he punctuated his rap song with a shot at Sean Payton, basically like a rap battle shot. And everyone in the room, of course, went crazy. The players were like, ooh and awe. Well, Sean Payton ends up the next day putting together a Game of Thrones video, where he superimposed his face and Eric McCoy's face over a beheading from Game of Thrones. And then he jumped up on a desk and did his own rap. And all of it was identifying Eric McCoy, basically a rap battle takedown like Eminem. And the entire room went nuts, as you can imagine. It's become the stuff of legend. And you think about it, Ricky, would you see Bill Belichick doing that, or John Madden?
No,
of course not.
No. And, Jeff, that's not easy to do. I mean, you just don't decide you're going to do that. I mean, that takes preparation and, creative thinking, and, you got to do it the right way for it to make a difference. Gosh, that's so impressive. Hey, listen, before we finish this segment, you had a book signing set last Saturday at the Island View Casino. And you and I talked just before you went to the game last Sunday. And you really delivered a terrific message about how well that went. But what do you want to say about it now that the dust has settled?
Well, it was a great night. I had a blast, saw a lot of people, great turnout. I have to tip of the cap to Steve Greenfield and his crew there, his staff of hosts. I mean, they just were so welcoming and gracious with their time. We had a ball. We got to meet so many wonderful people, Saints fans. A lot of them were going to the game the next day at the Superdome against the Bears. And I tell you, Ricky, it was 2 hours and it seemed like it was 10 minutes. It went by so fast. And so I had a great time, and I told everyone there, I definitely plan on coming back. What a great facility they have there. Beautiful right there along the beach. And they are really going places. You can tell that place is very popular.
I saw the picture you posted. It may have been Instagram or Facebook. I don't know. So on social media of the sun setting. when you're at this on the south side, the south side of the property, the beach side of the property, and looking toward the setting sun, I don't know if there's a more beautiful place to be to observe that.
Oh my gosh, it was breathtaking. And Steve told me that. He said you might get an opportunity tonight because it was such beautiful weather. But yeah, the hotel they built over there is 14 floors, right on the water. Just spectacular views and really nice. I mean, they have a non-smoking area there, very popular casino area, and a great steakhouse. It was just a wonderful night. I could not have been more pleased with how it turned out.
I've passed, by the way, to Rick Carter your thoughts, and he was thrilled to hear that. So when we come back, you wrote the definitive book on Drew Brees and Sean Payton. It's so popular. That's what we're talking about now. But it'd be interesting to see how, having written that book, how it affects how much you're in demand this week as we approach the playoff game. So we'll be back after this break.
Coast Vue on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all of the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com. What decisions are being made by state lawmakers, and how will they affect you, your family, and community? If you listen, you'll know. SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk app, and at supertalk.fl.
Hi, I'm Billy Kinder, host of Big Billy Kinder Outdoors here, the show Saturdays at 1, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Turkeys, whitetail, Grenada Lake crappie, or Gulfport redfish. We enjoy it all, especially when you're in camp with us on SuperTalk Mississippi.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to frequently touch surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse at telesouth.com. That's JESSE at telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Saints Friday here on Coast View, a day I really look forward to because we get to have the opportunity to talk Saints with Jeff Duncan, who covers the Saints for The Athletic. He's covered the Saints more than anybody else on earth. And that was a lot of fun talking about the rap and Sean Payton stories and whatever. You've heard so much in your preparation of that book. How has your week been impacted by the book sort of being part of the narrative for this week?
Well, it's certainly made me more popular interview commodity. There's no doubt about that. I've fielded a lot of media and will continue to leading up to kickoff. I mean, this is a huge game, Ricky. I don't have to tell you that. The storyline between Drew Brees and Tom Brady obviously is going to dominate the coverage all week. And, it's a special historic occasion here, what we're going to see on Sunday with these two legends in the game squaring off probably for the last time with so much on the line. And people want to know, they want to gain insight into Drew Brees and Sean Payton for this big game. So I was expecting it, but I didn't expect it to start quite so soon in the week. It started on Monday morning and is not really let up.
Well, it's so cool, and I'm not surprised. But first of all, the book is amazing. But you're such a great insider. You have wonderful sort of observations and anecdotes about why what you believe is maybe fundamentally correct, which is that this is the best quarterback head coach tandem in the history of the NFL. At least that's the argument you make in the book. Before we get to the game this week, let's talk about the game we just had, because it's once again a slow start. You said this many times in our conversations that the Saints have a tendency this season, for whatever reason, to start slow. But once they got their feet underneath them, they did amazing. But what I observed, there are many headlines from this game, but one for sure is defense continues to dominate. And Sean Payton is a matchup genius when it comes to scheming his offense. Amazing what he was able to accomplish there. But what's the headlines for you?
Well, from that game on Sunday, you saw what it means when they get their full perimeter core of offensive weapons intact. We saw how the Bears tried to adjust Ricky, double teaming Mike Thomas, trying to take Alvin Kamara out of the game. And that opened up things for guys like Deontay Harris and Jared Cook downfield. And the Saints are always going to take what the defense gives them. They're not afraid to call the numbers of players that might not have the pedigree of some of their all-pros, and it worked. I mean, Deontay Harris had a career game, and it took them a little while. I mean, they sputtered a little bit early. I think the Bears, you have to give them credit. Their defensive front caused some issues in protection and shutting down the run. But the second half, I thought the Saints really kind of took control of that game. And if Drew Brees just extends the ball another inch, they probably win that game 28-3 and going away.
What's interesting about Deontay Harris specifically is that here's a guy who's been out for several weeks with a neck injury, and he comes back. And I know he's been in practice and whatever, but he seems not to have missed a lick as it relates to the speed of the game. I mean, he literally dictated so many of those plays. His yards after reception was just incredible. I mean, this guy's a talent, isn't he?
He's a lot like Tyreek Hill, kind of the Saints version of Tyreek Hill, I think. Real diminutive guy, but unbelievable turnover of foot, right? I mean, he's not that big. Usually you think of sprinters and track. They have those long legs and they eat up ground with their stride. Here's this guy, he's 5'7", but he can motor, man. He's like the road runner in the old Looney Tunes cartoons. He just goes by players. He's so fast and he's shifty. And Bruce Arians said it this week in preparation of the game. He said the guy we're really focused on and concerned about is Deontay Harris, because he can take it to the house in a snap. And he adds another weapon, another element, I think, to the Saints offense.
I think that probably Sean Payton and Drew Brees, every time they throw the ball to Deontay Harris, they have an expectation, or at least it's in their mind, that he's going to go, he's taking it all the way. I mean, this guy, we've seen it over and over again, but if he ever gets loose in open field, he's able to sort of get around, the first and second tackler often. But if he ever gets loose in the open field, man, he's taking it all the way. Maybe this is the week he'll do that.
He forces defenses, Ricky, to rally to the football. They have to run to the football because he's going to get by usually the first or second defender. And if they're not pursuing the ball, he's going to go take it to the house. So it really has a cumulative effect on the defense over time, forcing them to run sideline to sideline to keep up with this guy, much the way Alvin Kamara does as well. And that's something that this offense has kind of missed the last couple of years. It's another reason why I think they've got a great opportunity to get back to the Super Bowl, because now they have these perimeter weapons that can turn a 5-yard gain into like a 40-yard gain, something they really haven't had the last few years.
Well, you think about the Taysom Hill fumble when he went back to throw that pass. Man, if he would have thrown the pass maybe a split second sooner, that'd have been a touchdown. I mean, that had touchdown written all over it. When you observe that, you're thinking, man, we're just going to continue to see creativity coming from Peyton.
It's almost the same play, very similar play, the one they ran last year against Minnesota. I documented that actually in the Peyton and Brees book. That's what Taysom Hill brings to the table. When he comes in at quarterback, it forces opposing defenses to play them a certain way. And you're right, if Taysom Hill gets that ball released, it just took a split second too long. They blitzed on the play. They got home, give him credit. But if he gets a clean pocket, that's definitely a touchdown, because Deontay Harris was 10 yards behind the defense.
Hey, so speaking of Taysom, before we get move too far away from him, he tweaked his knee in the game. Is he okay?
Yeah, we won't know until the injury report comes out, like later in the week. But he apparently is going to be limited this week in practice, but I don't think it's anything serious. He's a key weapon. They need to have him. He's obviously taken over as their short yardage specialist. Goal line package really involves him at quarterback. So he's almost been indestructible so far. It's one of the things that's different about his pro career. I mean, his college career, almost every year he had a significant injury, and they were all different. And then so far in the NFL, he has really been injured at all, despite all the hits he takes. So obviously they need to have him healthy and 100% for this game.
So what stands out to you for the defense this week, other than just a continuation? I mean, 1 first down. I mean, the list goes on and on, the stats that play in their favor. But what stands out to you?
Well, they dominated a pretty pedestrian Bears offense. I mean, the Bears were in the game without Darnell Mooney. Then they lost Miller, who punched Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Really not very smart move there. So they should have shut that team down. It's going to be a completely different story this week, going against the weapons that Tampa has and a veteran quarterback like Tom Brady, as opposed to Mitch Trubisky. So a huge challenge here. And I really think one of the underlying factors in this game, Ricky, is how the officiating crew calls the game. Sean Hockley is going to be the referee. He's going to have an all-star crew here. But how are they going to call the game? Are they going to let the Saints secondary get away with the physicality on the perimeter and defending the way they like to defend? Or are they going to call it tight and force the Saints to play clean and call some pass interferences and holding early on to set the tone? I think we're going to know early how they call this game is going to really determine the Saints' success defensively in trying to contain the Buccaneers' passing attack.
You know, you don't think about how important what you just said is, because at the beginning of the season, you and I talked about this. If you remember, for people who don't remember, the Saints had an unbelievable number of pass interference calls at the beginning of the season. And, we got big plays on them. And we've talked about this in the past. Once the defensive scheme was changed, and we can talk about that if you want to, Jeff. But once the defensive scheme was changed, you didn't see the big play getting away from us. But the point that you made was that the Saints played very physical. And if they let us play physical, it will be very interesting to see how the outcome is. They don't let us play physical. And certainly one of the teams that we played that we got some bad, really tough calls against us was against Green Bay earlier in the year. It could really change the tone of the game, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, Sean Hockley was the referee for the Saints-Raiders game in week 2, when the Saints had 10 penalties for 129 yards. Really, that was the high water mark of their penalty problems. But that is also back when the Saints were playing a different defensive alignment, and they really have gotten a lot better. So it's hard to read too much into that one game. But I really believe how they call this game will be important, because the Saints like to get physical. They do it. In the last week, the officiating crew let them get away with it, and they were all over. They were in the back pocket of the Bears receivers. Will they allow them to do it again? Because the Saints aren't going to change the way they play defensively. They're going to play the two deep safety look with man-to-man coverage underneath and get physical at the line, and that's going to be critical against guys like Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. They've got some big-time threats on the perimeter, and how they call it, I think, is going to go a long way to determine how this game's played.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson said after the game, he's just playing ball. I mean, he's just focused on playing ball. When we come back after the break, I want to hear what he's saying, if we can say that on the radio. We'll be back after this break.
Broadcasting safe and sound from the coastal Mississippi studios, this is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk 103.1.
.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
Be sure to go by this station's website and check out the half-off deals. Audubon Zoo tickets for just $15. That's half price. $30 zoo tickets for just $15. Again, go to this station's website or Facebook. Look for the half-off deals logo to purchase yours now.
Heart attacks and strokes don't stay home. So don't avoid the ER out of anxiety. Don't die of doubt. If you have an emergency, call 911. When seconds count, the hospital is the safest place to be.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter. Has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and
wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
There's a place to share gossip about the office party fun, and a place to share the story you tell everyone. There's a place to share a laugh about when things went wrong, and a place to share the video of you dancing to your song. There's a place to share spare change, lunch, and your time. But we could all be better at sharing how we're feeling inside. 76% of employees have struggled with at least one issue that affected their mental health. When you share, you're not alone.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have 2 risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to frequently touch surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
Whether you're a Rebel, a Bulldog, a Golden Eagle, or just a sports fan, SuperTalk Mississippi has got a podcast for you. For you. Sports Talk Mississippi, the Rebel Report, Thunder and Lightning, the SuperTalk Eagle Hour, and the Borky Show are all now available for you. And it's all free. Get them all on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for SuperTalk on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. It's Saints Friday here on Coast Vue. Thanks for joining us. We have Jeff Duncan from The Athletic. He's covered the Saints longer than anyone else on earth. And we're just having a fun conversation about the game we just had with the Chicago Bears and the upcoming game. Some have called it the Geezer Bowl. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But come on back in, Jeff, and let's. What I mentioned as we were going to break, C.J. Gardner-Johnson for the second time in a row with a different receiver, got inside the head of a receiver and had that receiver slap him upside the head. What is he saying?
Well, he's obviously the leading trash talker. He's all pro trash talker in the NFL. I've never seen anything like it. He's had 2 different players kicked out of the game this season, and he's been punched now 3 times, including once by his own teammate, Mike Thomas. So he's obviously getting inside the head of some of these players. And even though Matt Nagy, the Bears coach, said they spent an hour during practice that week in film study talking about C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and to not respond, they still react. So it's got to be something bad, Ricky. There's no way these players, there's a lot of trash talking going on in games. I've never seen players respond with punches the way they are with CJ.
So you may not be able to report what the words are, but you need to find out, because then you could get the scoop. You could say, well, look, I can't tell you what it is, but it's really bad. But you probably already know that, don't you?
Well, look, we've asked players. No one will say. We asked Sheldon Rankins about it this week, and he said he couldn't say. There was no G-rated version of what he could say. And we also asked Sean Payton about it. And Sean Payton, look, he and Aaron Glenn, the defensive backs coach, both were waiting for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson when he came off the field after that incident, because they know there's certain situations where he's got to use his head and understand the game situation. That was a 3rd and 15 play, incompletion. The Saints are off the field defensively, and the Bears are in their territory, so they were close to a field goal opportunity. And instead, you get these 2 flags, and if official sees it one way and they call the personal foul just on Gardner-Johnson, that's an automatic first down for the Bears and could lead to more points. And early in that game, I mean, the Saints were clinging to a 7-3 lead. That could give the Bears confidence. So he's got to understand the situation and be smart about it. As Sean Payton said today, look, it's all about the team, and your teammates are counting on you. You can't hurt your teammates. And I think that point's been driven home.
Well, aside from his trash talking, his world-class trash talking. He's playing really good ball, isn't he?
Yeah, he's I think next to Demario Davis been the best defensive player the Saints have had all year. He's critical the way they use him. He's able to cover fleet receivers downfield. He's in run support. They blitz him off the edge. He's just a playmaker, and he's an incredible athlete, and he's not afraid to stick his nose in there and make a big hit. He loves the game. You can tell. Look at the passion he had when he ran down Trubisky from behind all the way across the field. He's been a huge signing. I brought this up the other day, Ricky. He was a fourth-round draft pick they got in the same draft as Eric McCoy in 2019. That draft has ended up turning out okay again. Another Jeff Ireland feather in the cap. Two really strong players for them, McCoy and Gardner Johnson. Then they had 6 players that were undrafted, guys like Carl Granderson and Shai Tuttle and Deontay Harris, an all-pro return man, some other depth players, 6 players that were undrafted that were on the active roster on Sunday in a playoff game. That's just remarkable personnel work.
It really is. And we missed another field goal by one of the most accurate field goal kickers in the NFL until a few games ago. This week we brought a holder in and another kicker in onto the practice squad. Is that COVID related, or is that related to sending a message?
Probably a little of both. Publicly, Sean Payton is saying it's COVID related, but come on, let's face it. He wants to have somebody there in case something goes awry. But it also makes sense. In the old days, you could bring in a kicker in a day's notice and have him on the roster. Now they have to go through 5 days of protocols of testing to be available. So you have to have somebody on the roster at the ready. As Peyton quipped today, he said, look, I don't want to be trying to kick in a game. I don't want to be the one out there long snapping or kicking. We have to have somebody ready in case, say, the whole kicker room gets, a positive test and an infection, just like what happened with the running backs a week ago. It's really smart. We talk about it all the time, attention to detail. He's having every base covered, no stone unturned to derail this Super Bowl run.
So what's your read on why we're missing field goals?
I just think he's going through a little case of the yips right now. It's obviously it's technique and fundamental, oriented, because he's missing them the same way. Usually, I know he flew one left recently. I think it was an extra point, but most of the ones he's missing, he's pushing to the right. And I'm sure that's just a flaw in his technique and his approach that I'm sure is being evaluated all week. And it's in his head. If I'm the Saints, I want to get him on the field early in this game Sunday and get a field goal out of the way, because I would not want to come down to a last-second field goal that needed to win or tie the game and him not having an attempt in the game. I would like him to get some confidence early on and get one under his belt.
Jeff, a few weeks ago, he went to kick a field goal or extra point, and he slipped, and he seemed to tweak something. Is it possible that he's injured himself somewhat?
Well, maybe, but I don't think they would have him out there if it was something that was going to be hurting the team. It's just too important. I don't think that's it. I just think he's in a funk. It happens to kickers. It's such a mental position. There's so much that goes into, the technique. It's very much like a golfer, getting in a funk putting the ball, or, a baseball player that goes through a drought at the plate. There's so much skill involved in what you're doing. And, I'm actually going to reach out, I think, this week to Morton Anderson and talk to him about it, because I think he would have an interesting insight into what's going through Will Lutz's mind right now and how mental it is more than physical.
Lutz has seemed to be able to stay focused and have the right mental framework for so long now. It's strange to see him struggle. And I hope he figures it out, because we need him to figure it out. Hey, let's start on the game for this week, and then we'll finish on the other side. But yeah, I was listening to NFL Network yesterday afternoon. My goodness, man! There's an incredible infatuation with this game because it's historic in so many ways. It's fundamentally historic for the NFL, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to get huge ratings. There's a reason it's in the prime time spot on Sunday on Fox. Tom Brady, Drew Brees. These are the two leading passers in the history of the NFL. and both in their 40s. I mean, Drew Brees is turning 40 today. On Friday, he is turning 42 on Friday. So this is his birthday. So he will be facing off against the guy that's probably the only one in the league that can top him in seniority right now. And they're friends. I mean, they go back all the way to the Big Ten days when Michigan played against Purdue. I mean, these guys have known each other for a long time. They still use the same coaching specialist in the offseason, Tom House. They are very much friends and respect each other greatly. So to be going against each other and one of them is going to emerge here, it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. I think this one's going down the wire, Ricky. I don't see this being a blowout at all. I think I just can't see the Bucs playing that bad again against the Saints.
Yeah, I've heard so much analysis. Does it help the Saints that they beat Tampa Bay twice before, or does it hurt the Saints because the Tampa Bay team that they're facing today is a team that just really found its swagger toward the end of the season? And you watch some of the highlights of this most recent games, and Brady's throwing the ball well. The receivers, you can see the receivers and the chemistry with Brady just evolving rapidly. But the new, the last time they played them, they had the new defensive scheme, correct?
Correct.
And we beat them. So what's your read on that? I know you said it's going to come down to the wire, but does it hurt the Saints or help the Saints that they have sort of had their number this year?
I think it definitely helps them. I mean, you have confidence. I mean, it really comes down to just basic matchups. I mean, how you beat the man in front of you is what this comes down to. And I think the Saints have better players. They have better Jimmies and Joes than the Bucs. And I think it'll play out again that way. But here's one of the keys from the first two games. Turnovers were huge in both games. I mean, Tom Brady has only thrown 12 interceptions all year. He's thrown 5 against the Saints in 2 games. And those have turned the tide in both those games. I mean, they basically have dictated the Saints getting an early lead, and they were able to kind of have control of the game. I'll be interested to see how aggressive Tom Brady is, how aggressive Bruce Arians is. That's kind of the nature of their offense. They go down the field with the ball, and that can lead to turnovers. Will they continue to do that? I think Bruce Arians' line is, no risk it, no biscuit. You don't get the reward if you don't risk it. Are they going to be willing to do that again against a team that has shown that they can take the ball away and intercept it and, get those short fields for Drew Brees in the offense? That's going to be fascinating to see the strategy involved from Tampa Bay's offense.
It's Saints Friday here on Coast Vue. This is Jeff Duncan from The Athletic. When we come back, we'll continue to sort of close it all out with more conversation about the upcoming game. What a historic game it will be. We'll see you after this break.
Coast View on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all of the incredible inventory at AllenToyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino.
SuperTalk. Nobody keeps Mississippi informed like we do. With 12 stations covering all 82 counties. If it happens in your state, we're on top of it. The news, the weather, the sports, and the talk that's important to you. The issues that matter to you, your family, and your bank account. It's all right here. And when you're away from home, depend on the SuperTalk app and supertalk.fm to stay in the know. We're proud to serve our fellow Mississippians. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had two different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Pot, come on, it's time for me to go beat Elvis." And he stood up, and a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Everyone knows the only thing better than pizza is free pizza, and right now, buy a $10 gift certificate to CiCi's Pizza for only $5. It's like buying a pizza and getting a pizza for free. Go to our station's website or Facebook. Look for the Half Off Deals logo to purchase this amazing deal right now.
We give HPV vaccine to children at 11 or 12 years of age. I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I've given the vaccine to all of them.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Saints Friday here on Coast View with Jeff Duncan from The Athletic. We're talking Saints, and more Saints. I love having these conversations, especially this time of year, because the Saints have won a playoff game and they're about to play another playoff game. And it's a historic game. Some have called it the Geezer Bowl because of the age of the two quarterbacks that are playing in this game. As you pointed out, coming back, coming into this game, Drew Brees and Brady have a long history together. But boy, when they get on that field, that won't matter at all, will they? They want to win this game big time.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ultimate competitors. That's why they've gotten to the top of their profession, Ricky, and they have great respect for each other. But really, this game, Sean Payton, we asked him today, what storylines are we overlooking in the Brees-Brady hype? And he said, really, it comes down to the line play. And you and I talk about it every week. The Saints, I think, have a decided edge along both lines, but they got to bring it. I mean, you know that Tampa Bay, they had to be embarrassed the way they lost last time to the Saints in Week 9. I mean, that was just a rout, 38-3. They did not play well in any facet of that game. So you know they're going to get the Bucs' best shot, and especially along the lines where the Saints have dominated. That's going to come down to best man winning these one-on-one battles. And Sean Payton made a point of saying whoever affects the quarterback the most, especially in this game where you have two guys in their 40s that aren't particularly mobile, that rely a lot on the pre-snap reads and how to decipher defenses and diagnose what the other team's doing. Really is going to come down to who protects who the best.
You know, when I think about that, I think that Brady might be a little bit more vulnerable because he's wanting to get back there and he's wanting to make that killer play. And Drew will be totally satisfied with short passes and letting, the yards after the catch kind of take hold. It's going to be, of course, you don't know what their scheme's going to be. You don't know what they're going to try to do, but they are a big play team. And as you pointed, if you don't risk it, you don't get the biscuit or whatever you said. That's true about them. And we were able to put a lot of pressure on Brady in those last 2 games, weren't we?
Yeah, and move him off of his mark, as they like to do with Matt Ryan. He's not as effective when he does that. And I think getting his head a little bit, get his clock sped up where he's thinking about the rush and getting the ball out quicker. And then on the other side, I really think Drew Brees is going to have to be patient. He's been patient all year. I think the Bucs will not blitz him as much as they have in the past because his numbers against the blitz are off the charts, Ricky. I mean, this is not a guy you want to come after and leave your secondary exposed. So, again, I think this comes down to what kind of game plan do Sean Payton and the offensive coaching staff put together in the red zone, because I think the Saints are going to get down there a lot. Can they punch it in for touchdowns in the red zone? They struggled a little bit against the Bears down there, especially at the end of that game. They really struggled to punch it in, but the Bears are one of the top red zone defenses in the league. And Sean Payton this year, I've never seen so many creative play calls down near the goal line, getting Alvin Kamara to run into the end zone standing up. That just doesn't happen on touchdowns. Taysom Hill, the same thing. Can they punch it in for 7 instead of 3? Because I think they're going to move it down inside the 20 a lot this week.
I'm curious. This is really an important question, and I don't know the answer, and maybe the game dictates it, so there's not a clear answer. But when you have so many horses, when you got Michael Thomas doing and Sanders coming on strong and Deontay Harris doing what he's doing and Murray being so consistent and Alvin Kamara and needing to get Taysom Hill in here to do his thing, there's a part of me that says we should ride Kamara more. And when we do, you see what the outcome is. But maybe that was just a matchup situation. We had, a situation where we could turn him loose and let him make 6 touchdowns. But is there a tendency to want to pass the ball around, or is it just no? It's just this is what we see, and we're going to take what they give us.
It's the latter. It's exactly what you just said. I mean, if you watch the Saints and you're at the game, it's really easy to see what's going on. More than any other team I've ever seen, that when the offense comes off the field after the first series, whether they score or not, it's Drew Brees, Pete Carmichael, Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, all the quarterbacks. They're all looking at the video, the photographs of how they're being defended. Sean Payton coming over. I mean, these guys are intense, going over what the defense is doing and then how they're going to adjust. And they're basically going to take what they see on film and apply that to the game plan going forward. Okay, well, here's how they're going to do this with Alvin Kamara. We're going to do this to counter it. It's very much a chess game being played by the Saints offensive coaching staff, and it happens 2 or 3 series in. And if you look at other teams, I've done this, Ricky, from the press box with my binoculars, watch the other teams. They're not doing that. I mean, they're discussing it. They're having conversations, but they're not out here with the Zapruder film studying the photographs the way the Saints are. It is a big part of what they do during a game.
Wow, it's so interesting, and that's why it's a PhD in offense that you need in order to succeed on the Saints offense. Hey, we're coming to the end of this segment, but listen, if we win this game, is Green Bay going to win?
I think the Rams can give them all they want. I think it's going to be. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that the Packers are going to advance. I really don't. We're going
to know going into this game if Rams won. Saints are playing for a home field advantage for that next game. Man, what an interesting dynamic that's going to unfold before our very eyes on Sunday.
Yeah. Either way, it's going to be big if the Saints advance. You're going to Green Bay, an epic showdown with Aaron Rodgers, frozen tundra, or you get the Rams and get a chance to exercise those demons in the Superdome from 2018.
Wow. Jeff Duncan, thank you, buddy. This is Jeff Duncan from The Athletic. Covered the Saints longer than anyone else. And whether the Saints win or lose, we're going to meet next week to sort of debrief, but hopefully we're meeting next week to celebrate and talk about the upcoming game. So have a great game, Jeff, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ricky. Have a great weekend, and hopefully we're talking about a victory next week.